Hey, Fiora, how are you?
Hey, Joe. I'm doing good. How are you?
I am really good today. I'm excited about today's topic. It's going to be a good conversation.
Yes. Yeah.
I know we've both put a lot of work into, being well informed for this conversation, but it's also something that's very fluid that we've had this conversation before.
Yeah. Yeah, we have. So before we get started, I did have a small corrections corner for last week. My sister, who used to work at a dispensary, very quickly corrected me and was like, they're not called weed baristas, they're called bud tenders. Which I knew that because she worked there. I knew that. But it just slipped my mind. But I will say though, I did notice from going to a dispensary in Seattle versus the ones that I've been to in California. Seattle, I think Washington probably takes their weed much more seriously than California does. Like, I swear the guy that helped us at that dispensary, he went to weed college. Like,
okay, so can I just say that in deference to your sister, that's fantastic. Thank you for correcting us. But I like our term better, and so weed barista it is.
And then she said, she's like, but most of them don't even know what they're talking about. And I think it's, again, in reference to California people, which I'm like, I get it. She's like, if the two look the same in the jar, they're probably the same. She's like, so I'm like, yeah, that's probably not helpful. Mm-hmm. So find your local legit dispensary.
That's right. Your bud tender.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to talk about my upcoming class. It's coming up this Saturday, May 15th. It's at 9 a.m. Pacific time, which is noon Eastern. Okay. I am really excited about it, even though it's that early, because I hate early stuff. I'm not a fan of it at all. Anything early, I'm like, no. Yeah. But we're going to talk about numerology life path numbers and how you can use that to align with your soul blueprint. And so just really quickly, your life path number is calculated from your birthday. And then it helps you, it's important to you when it comes to your greater purpose, your strengths, your challenges, sort of your talents, any ambitions. Really learning about yourself helps you understand the overall goals of your experience as a human, okay? And numerology can help you with that. Mm-hmm. And so a life path number is not an occupation. It's absolutely not. It's a set of characteristics that you're meant to master and bring into alignment, all right? So in this class, we're going to do some really cool, fun stuff, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to learn how to calculate a life path number for yourself and for others. It's really easy. You'll learn how to identify what areas of your life are out of alignment, and then I'm going to teach you some intentional practices to help bring those areas into balance. So it's a great refresher for anybody. If you had an Akashic reading with me and you want to dive a little deeper into each of the numbers in your core numerology chart, and during your reading, I give you like 5 numbers. So it's a really good refresher class, where it's a great class just to learn how to do something with an intro to not numerology, kind of, sort of, but it's more about your life path number.
Specifically your life path.
Yes. So register on the website for that, thewokeakashic.com.
I'm excited for Saturday. That. I'm excited.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. You have a cool one coming up.
Yes, I do. I have Shadow Work 102, Money and Prosperity. This one's actually this one's my baby. My first one that I did was Intro to Shadow Work, which
Yay.
Preps, but isn't necessarily required for attending 102. 102, I've already tested actually several times, so I'm very set into this is solid content that I really love to share with people. So I'm very excited for that. It's essentially learning to address the things that may cause quote unquote blockages with money and finance, prosperity in general. So it's going to be a good one. And that one is...
Everybody needs that.
Yeah. And that one is the way I have 2 dates for that one. It's the same class, but just 2 different dates depending on when people are available. And the first one is May 12th, 4 p.m. PST. And then the second one is that following Sunday, Sunday the 23rd, same time, 4 p.m. PST. So you guys we'll link all these in the show notes. So today we are talking about social issues in the wellness culture.
Yes. Yeah. So for what does the term whitewash spirituality mean to you?
Well, for me, it has to do a lot with spiritual bypassing, or the fact that people use like their spirituality to negate other things, like to talk about how other things are lower vibrational, for example, like when people talk about saying politics are lower vibrational and to not get involved with that. Like, I feel like that's BS.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think essentially like spirituality is just connecting with your higher self, but in doing that, you're also connecting to your humanity, because at the end of the day, you're a human, and that's why you're here, to have a human experience. So with spiritual bypassing or negating the experience of others, that's not spiritual, because you're denying their humanity. So I think it's failure to acknowledge the experience of others and taking practices from other cultures in order to profit from them, and not honoring the culture from where the practices came from. And yeah, just not honoring the culture, I think is in general is whitewashing.
Okay. Well, first I want to point out that that's a great point about, people tell you not to be political if you're spiritual. And, if you're friends with me on my private Facebook page, you know that I get political. I don't do it all the time, but I do it, and it's well within my rights, and nothing will make me it will just set me off on a tangent faster than telling me that I'm not spiritual if I'm being political. So,
yeah.
Great point.
Yeah, I just think it's crazy that anybody would say that, because it's like, just because you can shut off the TV and you can shut yourself off from learning about what's going on,
which is typically privilege anyway.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that it doesn't affect other people. Like, not everybody has the privilege to be able to put their head in the sand and act like nothing's going on.
Exactly. So for me, the term whitewashed spirituality, I've broken it down as sort of into 2 concepts. So I have this topical idea of what it means. It's similar to spiritual bypassing, like you had mentioned, the tendency to use spiritual ideologies and practices to sort of make spirituality trendy and palatable for the Instagram masses, right? That stylized spirituality. Yeah. Listen, a spiritual awakening isn't about yoga and crystals, guys, as well. I'm not going to insult any of you that have gone through that. You know that. This shit is fucking evolutionary. It's transformational. It's life-changing. An awakening is legit. And, I'm not going to discount the experiences of anyone on Instagram, but I'm also not giving space to that stylized spirituality. I'm just not doing it. It's not what it is.
Yeah.
But then I have a deeper meaning that manifests in all the ways, kind of, I guess, in which like that patriarchal mindset has exploited and claimed indigenous practices. So that's another way when I look at whitewash spirituality in a bigger term, right? Both knowingly and obliviously, right? They know that what they're doing, but sometimes they're oblivious to it. Like a perfect example are where Caucasians calling themselves shamans. Like, no, in Fiora, you're going to talk more about that. I think that's good because I get really passionate about it. Listen, I know my limits. That's a topic that I probably I get way too passionate about. So. But I also want to note this. It's unfortunate sort of that we frame the term whitewashed in a derogatory manner, and that's not the intent, which is sort of why we talked about it a little bit and decided that, stylized spirituality might be a little better term.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's a little derogatory.
Yeah. Which that's not the intent. So.
Yeah. And as far as like microaggressions and that kind of stuff that happens, a lot of us even, people of color we do these things too. Like we do these things too. We have our own biases. We do these things too to each other as well. So like, this is one thing we were talking about, like even within our own communities, like we're not safe from certain biases or prejudices. Like I've encountered a lot of, like, I speak Spanish. Spanish is my first language. But I have a lot of friends who are Hispanic and appear Hispanic, and they don't speak Spanish, and they get crap from other people who are like, oh, you're not a real whatever. You're not a real Mexican. It's like, says who? That's bullshit. Like, just because you don't speak the colonizer's language, like you either speak English because you were colonized by England, or you speak Spanish because you were colonized by the Spanish. But at the end of the day, you're still speaking the colonizer's language. So really, like, you're giving them, you're shaming them for something that, they maybe couldn't control. A lot of us, we weren't taught a second language because maybe we had family members who went through really difficult times because they had an accent, or because they didn't speak English fluently, or they didn't speak it without an accent. So they didn't want to carry that over into their children. There's a lot of shame sometimes involved with that stuff. So
yeah, I think that's what happened with my family when my grandfather came from Cuba. And he grew up in Little Havana in Florida, and then they moved to Lansing to GM. And of course, this was way back in probably like the 50s, 60s. And he sort of forbade my mom and my uncles and aunts and uncles to speak Spanish. And so the language once it got to my generation, it was gone. It was lost. Yeah. So it's a little bit sad.
Yeah, it is, but it's not a reason to shame anyone.
No.
Like, who doesn't know their language, or not even seriously their language. Again, it's the colonizer's language. So.
Yeah.
Like our languages are so scattered all over the place, and it's hard. Like, I've been taking a Nahuatl class because I wanted to learn a little bit more about my indigenous roots. And even that language, there's so much stuff that's mixed into it. There's so many different spellings and all this, but I thought it was a really good opportunity for me to learn a little bit more about my own culture and to connect with my indigenous roots, by doing that for myself.
Very cool. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to learn Spanish, and I'm going to be honest, the first time I did it in a classroom setting, I failed. I'm like, okay, well, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
It sucked.
I took German first before I took any other language.
Did you?
Yeah. I don't know what it was about German that I was like, I want to learn this. I don't know. And it's actually, what I appreciate about it is that it's a very straightforward language.
Yeah. Easy.
Yeah. As, like, how things are written are how things are pronounced, and how you say it is how you write it. Like, it's straightforward, which is, I guess, what you would expect from the Germans. Like,
well, that's true. I did take French in high school, and I still use some of the terms and phrases now. So, that was a really easy language for me to learn, and it was always fun. And
did you find it? I took it in college, and I found I got really confused because of Spanish.
Oh, yes. Yeah, no. Well, of course, obviously I didn't know Spanish, so maybe that was that was to my benefit. But no, I love French. I would love to take another class in it to learn how to speak it fluently. And it's just beautiful.
That's one of the things, though, about the English language and about our country in general. We have so many borrowed words, borrowed phrases that we've taken, like, appropriated basically from all these other languages and cultures. Right. And we don't even, like, honor them. Sometimes it's like, for example, I have a friend, and she was telling me how there was this woman that came into her store, and she was pissed off because they were playing Spanish music on the speakers.
Cause that's something to be mad about.
Yeah. And my friend was like, really, Karen from Paso Robles? Like, come on. Like, you live, like, look at where you live. Like, you live in these cities like La Quinta, Hacienda Heights. Like, all of these cities, they're all Spanish names. Like, this used to be Mexico. Like, literally, like, stop. Like,
ignorance.
Stop. Yeah.
Ignorance. All right. Okay, so listen, I want to hear more about the Mayan prophecy and decolonization and all that good stuff.
Yes. Okay. So when researching all of this, like I think a lot of us had heard about the Mayan prophecy in 2012.
Yes, it was very interesting.
And everyone, like a lot of people were like, "Oh, it's the end of the world."
End of the world, right?
End of the world. Yes. But really, when I looked into it, it turns out the Mayans never predicted the end of the world, and it didn't predict an apocalypse either. It wasn't about judgment. It was what's recorded was that it was the end of a particular era and the start of a new one, which I kind of think that jives, like that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So the idea was that on December 21st, Earth shifted from one phase to another. So December 21st marked the beginning of the transformation. So like any transformation, it doesn't happen overnight. But yeah, they didn't speak of it in a literal sense of the end of the world. They just said that everything transforms and that the only thing that remains is the spirit in its journey of evolution toward higher levels. So I think that's makes so much sense, like where we're at. And I think that's exactly why 2020 happened.
Yes.
It's caused this shift of like, hey, this old world isn't working as is. Like, look at what we're doing to the earth. Look at what we're doing to each other. Look at how much we're overworking ourselves and for what purpose. So a lot of it was that stepping back, not to negate the experiences of people who have lost loved ones, because that's also something that we had to work through too, that experience, that loss, and maybe gain some more appreciation for life. But that's the Mayan prophecy. So I think that when all these people right now who are experiencing their spiritual awakening, this is what we're talking about. Like, you're talking about a mindset shift. So that's why I think it's really important to have this conversation when we talk about spirituality and not bypassing the human experience, because that is the point of all of this. It's because you need to get more in touch with your humanity. How are you as a human in this human world? How do you treat your fellow humans? There was this really interesting, I think it was a podcast I listened to. I don't remember. It was something on NPR. And they were talking about the groupthink and that kind of mentality of us versus them, and how detrimental that is to us as people, to us as society. The smaller you make the group of us versus them, the more animosity that it creates. Mm-hmm. When you look at just like a sports team, right? You look at sports as fans of one sports team versus fans of another. The more ingrained they are in their fandom, the more aggressive they are to each other.
It's so true. The Michigan State rivalry that I am a fierce proponent of is exactly like that. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like, my husband and I are Yankee fans, and like we had one day, we took a trip to New York and we stopped in Boston, and I happened to be wearing my Yankee cap. People were so rude to me in Boston. Like, relax. It's just a sport.
Okay. But you can't say that to sports fans, because it's like, just a sport?
No.
How dare you? Listen, don't even try talking shit about NCAA basketball to me, because I will come at you.
See, so that's exact. And so you see this. So on a more macro perspective, look at that in religions. You look at like, when this whole like idea of like Christianity versus the world, which is basically how it's been. Sorry, no offense, but it's true. Like all the crusades and all these things that were done hurting other people for quote unquote, like, I don't know, whatever. What was the thing? Like, because you wanted to get them to believe in God or something. So like, if you don't, let's kill them. Whatever.
I'm not sure what that is.
I don't, but I mean, with even we saw it here in the United States, right? You see it here with the missions, with the Spanish missions, and how they came and how they supposedly were bringing in the native people to help to teach them to be more civil or whatever bullshit. But essentially all of that was ethnic cleansing.
Right.
But it goes back to this idea of like us versus them.
Yeah.
So what this whole idea, what they were talking about was if we stopped looking at things as you versus me, as us versus them, as this group versus that group, and you start just to realize like we're all human. And if you really get yourself into that perspective of at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how different we look from each other, how different we speak, all that. And if you look at yourself at a human level, that's the goal. Like that's what we're shooting for. And I think that's truly the point of the whole spiritual awakening thing. Yes. Is to get everybody to get to that human level. Like we're all human, and that's it.
Yes. And so that's a really good way to wrap it all up and say that's what the basis of this specific, podcast is about. It's about looking at all the ways in which we tend to knowingly and unknowingly, consciously and subconsciously dehumanize others or devalue others, how we create that division and we're not looking at ourselves as whole and united, but yet individual, because it's eliminating those behaviors and eliminating those sort of ideologies that's going to actually help us come together and really move forward in ascension and all of that, because all of this is broken down into, well, it can be broken down into the fact that we're where we are in the world right now, 2021. We're still sort of prisoners to COVID, although we're starting to come out of it, because universally the universe was like, okay, you guys, you're doing it wrong. You're really doing it wrong. And, something needs to happen because this is not how you're supposed to be. Yep. And, again, I think that many of you probably have gleaned by now what my political leanings are. I'm actually a conservative Democrat. But as soon as 2016 happened, then the universe was like, what the actual fuck? No. So I don't care if you support the Republican Party, great, that's fair. But all of this, I believe COVID is the result of Trump being in office. And the universe is like, yeah, no, that's not cool. Or here's the other aspect of it. The universe said, yes, he's exactly the person that's necessary to bring about that evolution, the change that needs to happen, regardless of there has to be a catalyst for change. There has to be a catalyst for an ascension. And he is the catalyst. He absolutely is and still continues to be. And
yeah, it's a show of like, this is the state of things.
Mm-hmm. But we had to get there somehow, you know. So.
Yeah. I always said that Trump wasn't the president we needed, but he was the president we deserved.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. He did actually activate, that, or again, like I said before, he was the catalyst. He started the whole ball rolling. It was already rolling before, but he really exacerbated a lot of it, specifically privilege and racism and all that stuff, just bringing it to the forefront. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was bringing up the shadow aspect, but he was like the shadow monster. And it's just,
it really, I like that term.
Yeah, he was like the embodiment of all the things that are wrong with America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's talk about what privilege really is.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think it is?
Ooh. Okay. So first, I just want to say, if you feel called out with this, please maybe consider that you're being called in.
Beautiful.
Okay. Because I have a lot of white friends, which sounds like the reverse of that other thing people.
I know, right? Me too. I've got a lot of white friends. I'm not racist.
Well, that's another thing. But no, I feel so lucky, so fortunate that my friends that I do have are very hyper aware of their privilege, and it is the most refreshing thing. And obviously this is why we are friends, and that's why I love them. But I will say the thing, the about white privilege. Okay. I feel like some people, when they hear this, they instantly get like their guard goes up. Like,
Right.
I'm not privileged. Like, I don't get to pull out my white card and whatever and get freebies or whatever. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what that is at all. So privilege isn't that your life is easy or that you've had handouts, really. That's not what that means. And it also doesn't mean that you haven't had to work hard, because no one's saying that you haven't had to work hard, or that you haven't had hard experiences. It just means that those experiences and the hard work, all that it wasn't made harder by your skin color or by maybe the way that your name appears on a resume.
Yep.
Like that's all it is.
That's all it means.
Yeah. It's not that complicated, and it's not that really that deep. Like, so
no, it's not that divisive either.
No,
it really isn't. It's just that you didn't have a difficult time experiencing life, because of the color of your skin. You might have a difficult time experiencing life and be like, screw that. Life hasn't handed me anything. I haven't had anything, but it has not been because of the color of your skin. Yep. That's the one thing that you can eliminate. And that's what privilege means. End of story.
That's it. Yep. That's it. And the other thing to remember about white supremacy is that even if all white people aren't upholding white supremacy upholds all white people.
Right. Privilege.
So that's the privilege. So when we start in this conversation, it's like, once you just become aware of that, then you can start to use that privilege and see, okay, I have this. How can I use this to help others? Like, how can I use it to the advantage of other people? How can I share my privilege with other people? And there are ways, since we'll get into that. So
yeah, there are ways. We're going to talk being an ally, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the idea of being an ally and what that means, a lot of people are like, well, I'm not racist, and I, don't promote, and I support, and I have a Black Lives Matter sign on my lawn or business, so I'm an ally. Well, wonderful. Yes, you are. Cool. But let's really get into the bones of how you can be a better ally, or the mentality of that. Okay. Because listen, first off, it's not, a person of color's responsibility to educate you or hold space for you when you're angered by instances of racism. Okay. But don't say or do anything, right? You can't call your person of color friend, to vent. That's not cool. That's just not cool. So that's the first thing about being an ally. You can't just call up your person of color friend and say, I need to vent about this.
Yeah. Because they've already experienced it. They've already
right. Like, I can't hold space for you as a white person who's angry about racism.
Right.
I can support you, but
yeah. Well, my thing is like, well, if this situation pissed you off, like, why didn't you say anything? What did you do about it? Or what did you say? Yep. And that's the hardest part. And that's where, though, we can support you. Yeah. That's where, like, hey, like, this happened and I said this and I did this, and like, and it's like, you know what? Like, now I'm here for you. Now I can hold space for you, because like there was an action behind it. It wasn't you're just an experience. Like, you need to feel supported in your efforts. Then that's cool. I mean, at least for me, like, I would be fine with that.
Yes. It's perfect. That's a perfect example. I had a friend reach out to me angry that one of her friends was being racist. I asked her what she did about it, and she's like, well, and that's okay. Like, listen, but I said to her, this was a missed opportunity and this is what you could have done. And she was very grateful for it. But any of the venting and anger, I'm like, I can't hold space for you. I'm sorry. But it was a good conversation, and she's a wonderful person. So it was, I'm happy to do that.
And that's the thing, when that when you can have those conversations, when you can, if you're standing with some privilege and you can hear a person out, like, that's how you've already begun.
Yeah. Genuine allyship, it should start with the acknowledgement that, the involvement of non-Black people in the movement for racial equality, it's necessary, but that people of color need to be at the forefront, right? And so, it can't be a politicization. Why am I not saying that word right? politicization. There we go. Politicization of Black lives and white saviorism. It absolutely cannot be that. That is not what being an ally is. It's basically you have to speak up when you witness racism socially in your workplace, within your friendship groups. That's really important. Within your family, racist acts and comments must be addressed in silence. Like you have to make it so uncomfortable for somebody to say those things that they will think twice about it, right? Yeah. Casual racism, it cannot be tolerated in any form. And it starts at home within your friendship circles. There's this cool quote that I found, and it really hit me. And it basically said, and I'm paraphrasing here, it said, if you are silent about your beliefs because you're worried about making someone angry, then your beliefs are not as important as what someone else thinks about you. And that just that brings everything home. It's just everything in a nutshell. So, be an ally. There's lots of things you can do, but first and foremost, you have to remember that you have to speak up, and that, the Black leaders, Black people of color, they need to be at the forefront of this. It's their voices that need to be heard. So one of the things that I find here in Portland is that there are a lot of really well-meaning people, lots of liberals and all that stuff. But what are they fighting for? There aren't even that many Black people in Portland, right? So, I mean, it's not that it's misplaced, but it's like they're charging to the front of the group and they're speaking, and it's like, no. Where are the Black people? Where are the people of color? Where are the indigenous people that you're quote unquote fighting for? They need to be the ones speaking. You need to be behind them. Yeah. And that's just one area where it needs a little bit of transformation.
Yeah. That reminds me of that quote, what you just said. It's something about if you're neutral in situations of injustice, then you've chosen the side of the oppressor.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So anyway, so that's just a little idea of how you can be an ally and the things that you need to keep in mind to be an ally. So.
And microaggressions too, they pop up in a lot of different ways. Like thankfully I've never had that person that catches, me and maybe my mom or someone having a conversation in Spanish and then says something to us about that, because I feel sorry for you already. Like,
I was just going to say, okay, please can I don't want to see it because I don't want it to happen, but I would be like popcorn. I'd be like, oh shit.
I did have a coworker once I was sitting in a break room, and I think somebody had put on a telenovela in Spanish, and this girl walks in, and she was like maybe one of those I think like white passing Hispanic people, because I don't think she was not white. And anyway, she walks in and she says, why do you guys have the TV on in Spanish? Don't you guys know this is America? And I was like, do you not know that America doesn't have an official national language, and we can speak whatever goddamn language we want to because this is America and this is the United States? Bullshit.
And we speak American, which includes all languages spoken by all American citizens. So screw you.
And you don't realize America is North America and South America and Central America when you say the word America. So you need to chill. You do not own the word America.
See, now this is why I would want to have my popcorn. because of that. Okay, so microaggressions they are Satan. They can be Satan. They really are. Right? Okay, so here's the difference. Racism is blatant. And it is just blatant, right? Racism reduces a set of people to a group, and no one person in that group is seen as individual, right? That's what racism is. Mm-hmm. All right. But microaggressions, they're very subtle. They're often subconscious. They're known and unknown. I mean, they're little assholes, if you ask me. And I pick up on more on microaggression than I do blatant racism, especially here in Portland. Mm. All right. So I want to talk about like microaggressions from like a woke folk perspective.
Okay.
Because it all incorporates invalidation. And nothing will piss me off faster than somebody invalidating my feelings. Like that is, if I have to say, that's my trigger.
Yeah.
So like when a comment invalidates or undermines my experiences or the experience of somebody else, when somebody says something that invalidates or undermines it, that's what invalidation is. An example would be like a white person telling a black person that racism doesn't exist in today's society because they've never seen it. Well, and I had somebody tell me that. She's like, racism didn't exist in Perry. I never saw it growing up. Okay, shut the hell up.
That's not how things work. Just because you yourself have not experienced something does not mean it doesn't happen or doesn't exist.
That's right. That's invalidation. Or here's something else that happened. This happened recently in one of my Facebook groups. Someone telling another that their anger in response to a racist experience is on them. That's a spiritual cop out that it's like, that their response, their response is their responsibility. Well, how we respond to things is truly our own choice. Is it really? Is that so? George Floyd, how he responded, that was his choice, right? Like stupid bitch. And so, which is true, but when you use it to invalidate an experience, it's a microaggression and it's fucked up. Okay. Yeah. You are responsible for your reaction, but I'm talking about somebody cutting in line in front of you in the grocery store, right? Do you need to freak out or do you just say, be my guest, right? That's controlling your experience and your decisions, right? Getting your neck stood on for, 9 minutes and then dying. You can't, that's, you know what I mean? So that is why invalidation just throws me into, sort of I guess a tizzy,
Yeah, I think in that invalidating and also it walks a fine line between the spiritual bypassing too. Because when you get into, when someone's sharing something with you, maybe something difficult that they've been to. And I think sometimes it comes from a place of trying to be helpful when you're like very like woke or spiritual and you say like, well, everything happens for a reason and all that. Ooh. It's like,
it's a gray area.
Not helpful.
It's not helpful because people say, well, so my child got cancer and there's a reason for that. What do you say to that?
Yeah.
Just, no,
to keep that to yourself.
I think so. I mean, there's different ways, like during readings, sometimes these things will come up and people will ask and I'm like, I immediately say, Spirit, how do you want me to explain this one? Because I'm going to need the words. And always I channel some profound message, and I've never dealt with anybody's anger, but I really try to avoid any of those, telling people, well, this happened for a reason. That's just not a concept that people are ready for. Me, myself, I'm like, well, don't go there with me.
Because it's bypassing the human experience.
It's invalidating. Yes.
Yeah. If you're pushing everything up to like, whoa, well, it's all, it's your soul and you've got to go through these things and which, yes, but also let me like experience the thing because that's the whole point. Like that's literally why, yes, it happens for a reason. The reason is that I have to experience it. And sometimes it really sucks.
And when you're reaching out to people and you say, I want to share this experience with you because it sucked and, maybe somebody can hold space for me or can you walk me through it or conversate with me, any of that, for somebody to come in and say, to invalidate that, it hurts your heart a little bit. Like, man, there are some other examples of microaggressions other than invalidation. And these are just ones to keep an eye out for. I found myself actually doing some of these, and I'm like, oh, right. Like I'm not immune to this. I'm not viewing someone as second class, because of their gender, race, or sexual orientation. I didn't do that one, but I'm not going to admit the ones that I found myself doing, but we're going to start it. Viewing someone as second class, right? Okay. But then alternately, considering certain people to be of more value than others based on their ethnicity, class, or sexuality. So, and just you're assigning value based on, things that just don't matter when it comes to, anything because nobody is more valuable than another. This is This is literally one of my least favorites. Complimenting a Black person as being so well spoken. Oh, they're so well spoken. You know what? Fuck you. They graduated from Harvard. Of course they're well spoken. Like, I hate now this is one, telling a thin person that they should eat more food. You know, a lot of people, oh, you're so skinny, you should eat, you know, and being someone with a little extra baggage on my body, I know that if somebody said, oh, you should eat less.
Yeah.
I would be like, oh, it's time to have a discussion.
You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of men and you should smile more.
Oh, yes, exactly. That's exactly what that is, right? That's a microaggression. What are you actually saying? You know, just that's also a patriarchal thing.
Fucking tell me what to do. I will not. Just because you said that, now I will exclusively never smile around you.
Yep, exactly. Now you've done it. Okay, here's one that is so many people do this, and I see this on social media, and it just makes me mad because, like, who cares? Mm-hmm. It's deliberately not using a transgender person's preferred pronouns.
Oh, who gives dead naming shit? Them. Dead naming.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Or just saying they, you know, oh my God, but maybe they like being called they. So that's then
fine.
There you go. Right.
But the dead naming is really, really hard. And a lot of times it's family members.
It's family members. Yes.
They refuse to accept that person's, you know, identity, as they want to be known now. And yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, I just don't understand why people care. It's like, okay. I mean, if all of a sudden I said I want to be referred to as Queen Sheba, not one person would balk at it. I mean, maybe there would be some, but you know what I mean. For the most part, people would make the transition. So yeah, I don't think I'd care for that name actually. Okay, here's underrepresenting different races, sexualities, and disabilities in the media, right? That's microaggression, and that is common. Like, you know, every single time I look for media for any of my content or any marketing, it's always white, especially in my genre, you know, with spirituality, it's always white women doing everything, meditating, doing yoga, working with crystals, giving readings, whatever the media is there that I'm looking for, it's always white women performing it. So it's a little bit challenging because I like to have a diverse mix. Of course I want to represent white women, you know, I have white women clients, right? But I also want to represent Latina women and men too, really. Black, brown, Asian, whatever, right?
Yep.
And then, over representing one race, right? That's also microaggression. Listen, and I know I told you this, but I'm telling the listeners now. Just do a search for the word poverty on Canva. Go into Canva. Type in the word poverty and search and see what color those pictures are that come up. 98% of those pictures are of people of color. When I saw that, I was furious, and I almost told Canva to, take a hike and canceled my. I was just furious. But then it just started making me, I started crying. I literally cried because I'm like, this is absolutely heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking that to type in the word poverty and that's the return, Black and brown people.
Yeah.
Very sad. And so to that, I give Canva, fuck you, Canva.
Yeah, what the fuck, Canva, do better.
Do better. And then, here's another one you touched on a little bit earlier, which is, being unwilling to find, stereotypical or derogatory sports team names offensive. Like, oh, there's nothing wrong with the Washington Redskins. They've been that way forever. There's nothing wrong with them.
Yeah. No,
like a microaggression.
People are not your mascots, like the Indians and that whole thing. You can't just go and do ethnic cleansing on them, kill millions of them, steal. They never called it their land, but remove them from their homes. And then what? And then you take a picture of them and put it on your fucking sports team. It's bullshit.
It's true. There are so many social and racial ideologies that need to be addressed. And luckily, we're going to do that today. But there are just so many things. Okay, for instance, can we just talk about cancel culture for a minute?
Yes.
Cancel culture. Okay, first off, if anybody from the Republican Party is like, you guys are always trying to cancel stuff, you might want to take a look at your girl Liz Cheney, because that was the biggest incident of cancel culture I have ever seen. Ever seen. I was like, are they kidding me?
Yeah.
With this? That is what cancel culture is, because that's the epitome of it. But listen, let's look at this from a spiritual perspective. So many people are so quick to assume that if you have a problem with racism, that you support cancel culture. Okay. But in regard to spirituality, honestly, cancel culture should be the very last resort. It should not be the first thing that you jump to in regard to spirituality, right? Racism exists because one group fears the other will take away their power, and cancel culture only feeds into that belief that their rights and power, basically to say whatever the fuck they want, is being taken away. Okay. That's why Fox News is so huge on labeling everything cancel culture, right? They're not going to take away my right to be racist or say whatever the hell I want.
But really, canceling, when you cancel someone, what it actually means is that you're pulling your support away from them.
Yes.
That's the core.
Yes.
Of what cancel means.
Yes. But people are saying, they're using the handy dandy old First Amendment rights are being infringed upon argument that doesn't even apply. You don't even know what that means. Go Google. Do your Google. Okay. So.
And I think with cancel culture, there are people that deserve to be straight up canceled. There are people who deserve to not be supported anymore, to not have a platform, because they've misused it, because they refuse to fix their behavior, because they refuse to apologize in a meaningful way. They have not learned to do better or be better, because that's really the core of it. Like it's people get called out, and then it's the opportunity of, okay, how are you going to take this? Are you going to step back, analyze what the experience of what other people are telling you that they've experienced at your hands, and then what are you going to do about it? Are you going to apologize and actually change your behavior?
Yep.
Or are you going to continue, or are you going
double down, right? Are you going to take your platform, right? So a good example is Morgan Wallen, right? So let's talk about Morgan Wallen for a minute, right? He was the Nashville country singer. I don't listen to country, but I was really interested in Morgan Wallen because I'm like, what are they? Everybody's like, cancel culture. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. Okay, so when he was recorded saying the N-word while drunk and playing video games, his neighbor was actually pissed off because the dude was partying. So the neighbor goes outside and, just points his phone over Morgan's fence and is like, this is what these assholes are doing, right? Everybody lost their fucking minds over Morgan Wallen saying the N-word, because I'm sure he's never said it before, right? And they're like, take everything away, cancel him, take away his platform, like cancel him, right?
Uh-huh.
All right. In walks the Nashville branch of the NAACP and says, whoa, everybody calm the fuck down, hold the phone. Let's just calm down, sit down, talk it out, and see if the dude actually knows why the word is so hurtful to the Black community. He knows what the word means. He knows it's not cool to use it. He's freaking got a platform now, but let's dig a little bit deeper, okay? So they wanted to educate the singer on his use of the slur. Okay, because in order for Wallen to learn from the whole ugly episode, he needs to understand why the fuck it was offensive in the first place. And so instead of Morgan Wallen going full on Proud Boy, right, and being like, that's it, cancel culture, I'm done, I'm going to join the Proud Boys, which would just not be a good for anybody.
Yeah.
He accepts the invitation from the NAACP and has the conversation with Black leaders, and he comes away with a new perspective. So I'm going to quote, this is what he said. He said he's accepted some invitations from some amazing Black organizations and hopes to engage in some very real and honest conversation. I'll admit to you, I was pretty nervous to accept those invitations, he said. They had every right to step on my neck while I was down, George Floyd reference, to not show me any grace. But they did the exact opposite. They offered me grace, and they also paired that with an offer to learn and grow, unquote. All right, so listen, I am 100% on board with taking away the platform and canceling people and organizations that consistently show that they are intent upon spreading racism and hatred. Yank it. Get them out of there. They don't need that. But we also have to look at instances for opportunities to bring about change. How the hell else are we going to get change if we don't look at the opportunities?
Right.
So who knows if Morgan Wallen really transformed at a soul level? Really, he's the only one who can say. But if he does it again, right, then cancel the fuck out of his shit. Bye, Wallen or Morgan, you're done. So I have no problem with it.
Singer, or what is he?
He's a country singer, right?
Okay.
But like you were alluding to earlier, we have to give people the opportunity to change and grow. It's the whole point of the spiritual journey, change, growth, and just to take away that very platform that he could then turn around and use for good is just a bit reckless without attempting to elicit change. So that's where I stand on cancel culture as far as.
He was very fortunate that somebody came and,
the NAACP. Yeah.
That they came in and they offered him this, because not everybody has that privilege of being offered of like, hey, let me give you an education. Let me,
Yep.
And so,
but not everybody would take it either. A Proud Boy wouldn't take it. The Proud Boy would be like, screw that. I don't care.
Yeah, no, yeah. They would just take you say you're wrong and then that's it. But I think if you're someone that is interested in this and you want to know how do you make a difference, I think the first thing you do is have some introspection and learn and take it upon yourself to learn. Also, there are a lot of resources. There's one account that I follow she's on Instagram, Rachel Cargle.
Sounds familiar.
She's a great resource for breaking down people's arguments and pulling out their microaggressions and just helping you just to see see it from a different perspective. She's doing some really, really important work, which I'm just in awe of her posts and what she does and how the stances that she's able to take and how eloquent she is with her writing. She's definitely a really, really great follow.
We can add her name in the show notes so that everybody can follow her.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing though too. Okay. So we briefly talked about this when we talked about empaths, right? That the whole point of being an empath is because you feel other people's emotions, and it's because it's the human experience of feeling different things, of experiencing different things. But it's hard for maybe someone who doesn't maybe identify as an empath just to have empathy in general as a human when you don't put yourself in a position to see other people's experiences. So I think that's an easy way to educate yourself. Diversify your feed. Who are you surrounded by on social media? Like if you spend a lot of time on social media, who are your friends? What are you following? What things are you stuck in a circle of ideas that just circulates the same thought patterns that you've grown up with? You're not learning from that. It's important, I think, to diversify your feed in that way of follow other people, follow different cultures, see what they're doing, see what they're talking about, see what's important to them, and take it as an opportunity to learn.
Right. Exactly. That's, and of course, when you log on, you want to see what your friends are doing. You want to see all the cool things, but, social media isn't typically a place where people go to educate themselves. And that's unfortunate because, like you said, there are some really amazing accounts out there, for people that are really using their platform to elicit change. And if you take a minute and you actually, engage yourself with their message, you'll see, wait a minute, this is really cool, actually, which can lead to other, take you down a rabbit hole that's not nonsense and wasted time like we tend to find when we're on the interwebs.
Yeah. And with native people, there's a really big push towards decolonizing our medicine, just decolonizing our media, like just essentially just bringing it back, allowing people to have a platform. But the thing is that decolonization isn't the job of Native people.
Right.
It's up to everyone to dismantle the systems of oppression, and the awareness of the systems is only the first step.
I agree. Cultural appropriation.
Yes. Oh, God.
I know. There's a lot there. I think that it's important to talk about what it is and what it isn't, and just to really give people an idea about what that looks like. Because I think it scares people. Like, if I wear this geisha costume on Halloween, am I going to be accused of cultural appropriation?
Okay, so my thing is, because there's a lot of indigenous, like Mexican,
tribal
clothing
ceremonial garb,
and that kind of stuff. Not ceremonial, but just like the tops, like they're very like the indigenous Mexican, like the dresses, and then there's a lot of leather works, the sandals, which are huaraches. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's made it into fashion, right?
Yeah.
I personally don't see a problem with it as long as you are supporting the artisans that it's supposed to come from.
Yep.
If you are supporting people of color, artisans who are creating this content, then by all means, why not? Like, you're giving them money. Like, that's great. Mm-hmm. You're supporting them. You're supporting a small business. The problem comes from some fucking place like Forever 21 or H&M, some fast fashion shit, who's trying to sell our culture through their, shit made by, child labor in some other country, imported into our country. And it's not helping anyone in that system except for the corporation. Right.
And they're not even taking the time to learn the significance behind the item and how it should or shouldn't be used or worn.
Yeah. So that to me is like, that's probably the worst part of a cultural appropriation, is because there's nothing wrong, I think, with honoring a culture, but yes, it's educating yourself as to like, is this something that I would normally like, that I can wear? Like, is this just like a fashion thing that I could purchase and I could buy? Or this Indian headdress, for example, like a feather headdress, like, no. That's not for you. That does not belong to you.
No, like there was a Victoria's Secret model who wore a Native American ceremonial headdress in a bikini during a fashion show, and people lost their shit, which they rightly should. It's like, are you freaking kidding me? Well, okay. Is that something that she thought of? Probably no. I mean, nobody ever thought of that, but somebody was like, wait, this isn't cool. And why? Now, listen, I do think that ideologies have changed over the years, right? So that now everyone's first thought is this oppressive? Is this offensive?
Yes.
So, appropriation, what is it? I mean, what really is it? It's basically when a group or individual adopts some part of culture or an identity for the sole purpose of exploitation or oppression. That is appropriation. For example, the Victoria's Secret, right? Yeah. Now, when you appreciate something, that's a whole different story. So, let's just talk about some examples. Let's just go over some examples of what it is and what isn't. Okay, so Caucasian shamanic practitioners who call themselves shamans.
Yeah.
That is cultural appropriation. Yep. You're not a shaman, you're a shamanic practitioner. Wearing braids and dreads, that is not cultural appropriation. Why? That for me is a cultural appreciation, because braids are not culturally specific and have been found in many different countries and races across the planet for thousands of years. So there are accounts of dreadlocks originating in India with the deity Shiva, who was one of my favorites. And Vikings were also known to wear their hair in dreadlocks. So
which is not odd, because at the end of the day, it's just hair, right? It's just hair. And it's just like, what'd you do with your hair? And
what do you do with your hair? Yeah.
I don't think braiding it and stuff is,
no.
I'm sure.
And I know
thought of that.
No, yeah. And I know that there are a lot of Black women who are like, no, white girls shouldn't wear braids or dreadlocks or whatever. And the argument is that, it's not good for their hair. It's not right for their hair. It wasn't intended for them. Well, those aren't good enough for me. I'm sorry. Those are not good enough, because if I shave one side of my head and bleach it blonde, there is going to be some stylist out there that's going to say that's not good for your hair. It's not intended for you, that sort of thing. Yes. Don't tell me what to do. Not with my hair. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm not on board with, telling people that they can't wear dreads or braids, specifically because of that. Now, starting a business doing braids and dreads for others and making money off of it, still not appropriation. Because again, braids are not culturally specific.
Yeah. It's about knowing the history. Again, once you really dig into it and you realize, no, lots of different cultures had this, then you start. Yep. So it goes both ways. You can learn about something and discover, oh yeah, this is cultural appropriation. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Or you can also, again, learn about it and then discover, oh no, this is like everyone, like all these different cultures have had these things. So like, no, we're good. So nothing wrong with learning. Research. Yeah.
No, there's nothing wrong. Or take a minute and say, is this cultural appropriation? Let me do some Googling on it, or let me ask, maybe a friend or whatever, let me just figure it out. Non-Native Americans doing Native American ceremonies at, say, a yoga retreat, like drumming or, I don't know, peyote or ceremonies or whatever, that's appropriation. But maybe contracting that Native American to do a ceremony, then I think that is appreciation and support, because you're supporting that Native American, you're paying them,
you're honoring their time.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Again, we talked about wearing traditional tribal dress as a fashion statement. That is just really bad appropriation. But again, I'm a little bit liberal when it comes to Halloween. I'm not saying wearing traditional tribal. I don't know. I mean, with Halloween, I feel like I don't know.
Okay, here's the thing is that you have so many options. Like fashion is you can be so creative with fashion. Like, why are you limiting yourself to that? Okay, yes, maybe we used to do these things. Maybe we used to have these costumes, or you dress up as a cute little Indian woman or whatever the hell.
Wow.
But dude, like, be creative. You could do some crazy things. You could do some really cool things. You can do like a really sexy Lady Gaga or something. I don't know. Like, be creative. Like, don't
with a meat suit. You can wear meat suit like Gaga did. That's drop wise. Give them out as snacks. Halloween candy. It's a whole thing. There's opportunities.
There's so many cool opportunities you could do with Halloween. Like, don't limit yourself to trying to like steal someone's culture and make it a costume. Like, dude, think outside the box.
Oh my God. Do you want to hear the worst Halloween costume I've ever seen? And I feel so ashamed because it made me laugh, but I'm like, you asshole. So it was Halloween. I was at a bar in Lansing, and this dude comes in and he's dressed up as Donald Trump. All right. Right? You're Trump. You suck, right? Sure. His fucking asshole wife came in with a, what are those ponchos called that you can get in Mexico? What are they called?
Zarapes.
Zarapes. I knew there was a cool name for them. Yeah. She had a zarapes on and a sombrero, and she was dressed up like a wall.
Oh my God. Jesus
I was Christ. Like, you are the biggest asshole I have ever seen in my entire life. That's who they were. Donald Trump and the wall. But the wall was a human living being with a sombrero and a zarape.
Jesus. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm going to keep saying that word. I'm learning.
God. Oh my God. Okay, so I will tell you the best Halloween costumes that I've seen. There's this group of women. I think they were featured on BuzzFeed. They're like it's like a group of like 5 or 6 girlfriends, and every year they dress up as an actor in different characters in different movies. So like they'll do like a Johnny Depp And they'll do, like Edward Scissorhands and what's the pirate one?
Pirate of the Caribbean, and all of the crazy
Fear
things
and Loathing
he's
in
been.
Las Vegas. I mean, there's so many. Willy Wonka, like there's so many. It was so cool. So every year they pick a different actor and they'll do like different characters. It's so cool. So yeah.
That's the best one.
So there's your scale. There's your scale. Something real shitty to like, how cool is that? Also, like great bonding experience with your friends. So yeah.
I know. Okay. I'm excited about Halloween this year. So even though I typically don't dress up and I don't hand out candy, but this will be my first Halloween here in Portland.
Okay, but talking about or moving away from this conversation about costumes and stuff. So related to that, we can talk about what our roles are and how everybody is called to perform a certain role in our society or for our humanity. Some people are educators. Some people are more earth conscious. Some people are here to do social reform, financial reform. Some people are here just to be healers. And the healers can look like so many different things. I mean, doctors are healers, but also, massage therapists are healers. Like, right. There's such a spectrum. So, I mean, I think that's a beautiful kind of point to leave off on. On just remembering, like, what are you here for? Right. And if you haven't figured that out yet, look at where your joy is.
Your bliss. Follow the bliss.
Follow your bliss. Like, look at what makes you happy. When are you the happiest? What are you doing when you feel the happiest?
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's a good place to leave it off for this week. What do you think, Joe?
I think that's good. I think it's a beautiful ending.
Well, thank you guys for listening with us this week. And I know we've got a quick little message for you guys.
Yeah. Esoterics, we want to hear from you. We want your feedback. We want to know what you love about the podcast and what you would like to hear more of. We want your mystical, metaphysical, spiritual, and paranormal questions. What we're going to do is we're going to choose a few to answer each month. So make them interesting, engaging, varied, and juicy. Basically, we want to talk to you. So let us know if you have something to share with the world. It could be a cool new topic, modality, subject, book, service, podcast. It could be about you. It could be about somebody that you know. Just whatever. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you would like to share. And you could be featured on a future episode of Esoterics. So just please send your feedback, questions, and interests to esotericpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you guys enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with your friends or family or putting it on your social network. I know Spotify makes it really easy to share directly from the app onto Instagram. It would really help us to get the word out and grow our audience. And so this also goes for our reviews on Apple. But this time, actually leaving a review on Apple can snag you a $50 voucher for one of our metaphysical events. So that could be actually more than one class.
And that's a great offer, guys.
Yeah.
Jump on that.
So all you have to do is leave a review on Apple iTunes and you'll be entered into the raffle to win that voucher. Check out our new schedule on thewokakashic.com. under classes and tabs. All our websites will be linked in the show notes.
Thank you for sharing this space with us today. Stay mystical, magical, and ready to do it again next week. What are we talking about next week, Fior?
Oh, what are we talking about next week?
Next week. I remember next week we are going to have a guest next week. We're going to have our first guest.
Yes. So it's a surprise.
It is a surprise.
But we think it'll be a really good conversation. It'll be related, obviously, within our themes, but I think it'll be a really cool conversation.
And you'll never be able to guess. It's like out of the box, and so we're just like we're gonna do this right outside of the box. So yeah, it's gonna be good.
All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.